Hi guys, welcome back. This is the new mermaid chair for our read alouds. You all know how much I love mermaids, and some of you, if you are former students of mine, probably see your artwork in the background. I'm going to pick out of my book basket here, and we're going to read the first chapter of one of our book studies. One of my classes is going to know which one this is. And some of you are going to go, yes, I've been asking her to do that one if we could read it. And we don't always have time, right? Sometimes we have some time before lunch or after another class has ended, a couple spare minutes. We don't always have the time, but guess what? Now, because you're home in quarantine, we have nothing but time on our hands, right? So you don't need to tune in every day to do this. I'm not going to assign your stop and jots to you. If you want to do them, that would be great. I don't want you to fall out of that habit of doing what we were doing all the time in school, okay? So this is purely for your enjoyment, but if you want to keep practicing those skills, go ahead and do them. I will talk to you about what graphic organizers we're going to use and which ones would probably be a good idea to help you map out your 4 squares and do stop and jot. Okay, so drum roll, please. The chapter book for our read aloud is one that you've all asked me to do. It's Wish. I love this book. The classes who have done it with me have really had a good time doing it. We really enjoyed getting to know the characters, getting to experience everything they experienced in the book, and we really just had a good time with it. So, okay, I'm going to read you the inside summary on the book jacket. Charlie Reese is our main character. Her real name is Charlene. Charlie Reese has been making the same secret wish every day since 4th grade. But when she is sent to live with family she barely knows, it seems unlikely her wish will ever come true. That is until she meets Wishbone, a skinny stray dog who captures her heart, and Howard, a neighborhood boy who provides a lot of comfort and support and is very helpful in lots of ways. Suddenly, Charlie's in serious danger of discovering what it is that she thought she wanted, that she was wishing for, may not really be what she needs. Okay. So that's our preview. Chapter 1. I looked down at the paper on my desk, the Getting to Know You paper. Ugh. At the top, Miss Willoughby had written Charlemagne Reese. I put a big X over Charlemagne and wrote Charlie. My name is Charlie. That's what people call me. Charlemagne's a dumb name for a girl anyway. And I've told my mama that about a gazillion times. I looked around at all these kids doing their math and their workbooks in my new classroom. You know, my best friend Alvina told me they were going to be different. You're going to hate it in Colby, Charlie, she said. There's just a lot of dirt roads and hillbilly kids there. And she flipped her hair over her shoulder as she added, I bet they eat squirrels. I glanced at the lunch boxes under the desks around me and I wondered if there were any squirrel sandwiches in there. I looked back down at the paper in front of me. I was supposed to fill in all this stuff so that my new teacher could get to know me. On the line next to describe your family, I wrote bad. What's your favorite subject in school? I wrote none. Big capital letters. And then it said to list 3 of your favorite activities. So I wrote soccer, ballet, and fighting. 2 of those activities were lies, but one of them was the truth. I am pretty fond of fighting. My sister Jackie inherited this dark black inky hair from my dad, and I inherited his fiery red temper. If I had a nickel for every time I heard the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, I'd probably be rich. My daddy fights so much that everybody calls him Scrappy. In fact, at this very minute, while I'm stuck here in Colby, North Carolina, surrounded by these swirly and hillbilly kids, good old Scrappy's back in Raleigh, in the county jail, because he was so fond of fighting. Well, I didn't need a crystal ball to know at this very minute, back in our house in Raleigh, smack dab in the middle of the day, my mom is probably still in bed with the curtains drawn, and empty soda cans all around the nightstand, and she's probably still in her pajamas. And if I was there, she wouldn't care one little bit if I went back to school or if I stayed on the couch watching TV and eating cookies for lunch. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. That's what the social services lady said. She was rattling off a list of reasons why I had to get shipped off to this, excuse of a town to live with these two people who I barely even know. Well, it's better to stay with family. Gus and Bertha are family. What kind of family? I'd never met them before. She explained how my mama's sister is Bertha, and Gus was her husband that she was married to. She said they didn't have any children, and they were very happy to take me in. Well, then how come Jackie gets to stay with Carol Lee? I must have asked about 1,000,000 times. My older sister. That's her best friend. She lives in a fancy brick house with a swimming pool. Her mama gets out of bed every morning, and her daddy's not called Scrappy, and he's not in jail for fighting. So that lady did tell me from the social service department that Jackie, my sister, was practically a grown-up, and she'd be graduating from high school in a few months. Well, I pointed out I was in 5th grade, and I'm not exactly a baby. She just sighed and smiled a fake little smile and said, Charlie, you have to go live with Gus and Bertha for a while. Well, I never even laid eyes on those people or met them. How was I supposed to live with them? So I asked how long I had to be there. She said until things settled down and my mama got her feet on the ground. Well, I mean, how hard is it to put your dang feet on the ground? That's what I thought about that. I mean, you just take your feet and put them right on the floor. She said, you really need a stable environment. But I knew what she really meant was, you need a family that's not all broken like yours is. Still, I whined and argued and cried and whined and argued, but here I am in Colby, North Carolina, staring down at this getting to know you paper. Have you finished, Charlemagne? Mrs. Willoughby asked, suddenly standing beside me looking over my shoulder. My name is Charlie, I said. And this greasy-haired boy in the front of the class let out a sputtering laugh, so I sent one of my famous glares his way, until he hushed up, and then his face turned beet red. I handed Mrs. Willoughby the paper, and I watched her eyes dart back and forth across it as she read it. Her neck got kind of splotchy red, and the corners of her mouth twitched. She didn't even look at me before she marched back up to the front of the room and dropped that paper on her desk, like it was a hot potato. I slumped down in my seat, and I wiped my sweaty palms on my shorts. It was only April, but it was hot as blazes already. You want me to help you with that? The boy in front of me at the map. Joey. Sorry. That's the famous Joey that you always hear about. Stop that. You want me to help you with that? The boy in front of me pointed at the math worksheet on my desk. He had red hair and wore ugly black glasses. No, I said. He shrugged, took a pencil out of his desk, and headed up towards the pencil sharpener. Up, down, up, down, up, down. That's how he walked. So if you remember in the beginning of the year when we all did Wonder for a chapter book, we remember that Augie Pullman had a craniofacial disorder, right? And in our books, lots of times we look at how characters are different and how that really shouldn't matter how we treat them or how kind we are, right? So in this book, Howard has an issue with his legs walking, and he kind of walks with a gimp. So that's what that up and down walk is. They're describing the way that he walks. It was almost like one of his legs was shorter than the other. He almost seemed to drag one foot along the floor, and his sneaker made a squeaking noise. I glanced over at the clock. Oh man, I missed it. I missed 11:11. See, I have a list of all the ways that there are to make a wish. Like when you see a white horse, or when you blow on a dandelion, and when you look at the clock at exactly 11:11, that's on my list. I learned that from somebody who owned a bait and tackle shop, where Scrappy used to take me fishing. Now that I missed 11:11 on the clock, I was going to have to find another way to get my wish in for the day. I hadn't missed one single day of making my wish since the end of 4th grade, so I sure didn't want to miss one now. Then Mrs. Willoughby nodded toward that red-headed boy sharpening his pencil and said, Howard, why don't you be Charlie's backpack buddy for a while? Mrs. Willoughby explained that when a new kid comes to school, their backpack buddy shows them around and tells them the rules till they get settled. Howard grinned and said, yes, ma'am. And that was that. I had a backpack buddy whether I wanted one or not. The rest of the afternoon creeped along so slow, I couldn't hardly stand it. I stared out the window while kids took turns bragging about their social studies projects. There was a misty rain that began to fall, and dark and gray clouds hovered over the top of the mountains in the distance. When the bell finally rang, I hightailed it out of there and headed for the bus. I hurried up the aisle and dropped into the last row. I kept my eyes on a piece of dried-up chewing gum that was stuck to the seat in front of me, while I sent laser thoughts zipping and zapping around the bus. Don't sit next to me. Don't sit next to me. Don't sit next to me. If I had to be stuck on a bus full of kids I didn't even know, I wanted to at least sit by myself. My laser thoughts seemed to be working, so I took my eyes off the gum and I glanced out the window. That red-headed boy with that up and down walk, he was hurrying towards the bus. His backpack was bouncing with him every step of the way. When he got on the bus, I quickly looked back at the gum and sent my laser thoughts out again. That boy didn't waste a minute shuffling up the aisle and plopping himself right down next to me. Then he thrust his hand out at me and said, "Hey, I'm Howard Odom." He pushed at his ugly black glasses up his nose and added, "Your backpack, buddy?" Now, what kind of kid shakes hands like that? No kid I ever knew. He kept his hand there and he stared me down until I couldn't help myself, so I shook hands with him. "Charlie Reese," I said, introducing myself. "Where are you from?" "Raleigh." "Why are you here?" He sure was nosy, but I figured if I had laid out the cold hard truth, that would probably shut him up. Maybe he wouldn't want to be my backpack buddy anymore. "Well, my daddy's in jail and my mama won't get out of bed," I said. That boy didn't even blink an eye. "What's he in jail for?" he asked. "Fighting." "Why?" "What do you mean?" He wiped at his fogged-up glasses with the bottom of his shirt, cleaning them. His face was flush pink. "Why was he fighting?" he asked. So I shrugged. There was no telling why Scrappy was always fighting. There's probably a bunch of other reasons he was in jail. But nobody ever tells me anything because I'm just a kid. "Gus and Bertha told my mama you were coming. They go to my church, and I gave them a cat one time," Howard said. "A scrawny gray cat that was living up under the porch." Then he went on and on about how Gus taught him how to make a slingshot, and how sometimes Bertha sells bread and butter pickles by the side of the road in the summer. How his mama drove her car right into the ditch beside Gus and Bertha's driveway one time, and Gus pulled it out with a tractor. Then they all ate barbecue sandwiches in the front yard. "You'll like living with them," he said. "I'm not living with them," I told him. "I'm going back to Raleigh." "Oh, when?" "When my mama gets her feet on the ground." "How long does that take?" "Not long," I said as I shrugged. But the knot in my stomach told me that was a lie. The worry that was clutching at my heart told me my mama might never get her feet back on the ground. As the bus pulled out of the parking lot and headed towards town, Howard rattled off a list of school bus rules. No saving seats, no chewing gum, no writing on the back of the seats, no saying bad words. There was a whole mess of rules that I was pretty sure nobody probably paid any attention to, except maybe that Howard. I looked out the window at the sorry sights of this town called Colby. There was a gas station, a trailer park, a laundromat. It wasn't much of a town, if you ask me. No malls, no movie theaters, not even a Chinese restaurant. Before long, the bus was making its way up the mountain. The rain had stopped, and the wavy plumes of steam drifted up off the asphalt of the road. The narrow road curved back and forth and around, and every now and then the bus stopped to let some kid off at some pitiful-looking house. With all this red dirt, why was the dirt so red down here? We were almost to Gus and Bertha's when the bus stopped and Howard said, "See ya." Another younger-looking redhead boy got off with him. I watched them make their way across the weed-filled yard to their house. Bikes and skateboards and footballs and sneakers were scattered from the front door down to the road. There was a garden hose that seemed to snake from a dripping faucet to a hole in the yard, and a small, dirty-faced boy was dropping rocks into that hole, sending up splashes of muddy water. Howard waved as the bus pulled away, but I turned my eyes back to that dried-up gum. When we finally got to Gus and Bertha's long gravel driveway, I got off and I watched the bus drive away, making the rain-soaked Queen Anne's lace bob at the edge of the road. It's a type of flower. I was staring up the driveway when I noticed something shiny in the dirt at the edge of the road. A penny! I darted over and picked it up, and then I hurled it as far as I could, and I made my wish quick before that penny hit the road and bounced into the woods. There, I'd gotten my wish in for the day. Maybe this time it would finally come true. All right, So that is the end of chapter 1. It's a great place to stop and jot. So let's share this screen. Okay, so there's the cover of our book. And what I'm gonna have prepared for you on the next slide is our stop and jot format, okay? So if you have not done this book with me before, if I can make this bigger. If you have not done this book with me before in class, go ahead and give it a go. Open up your journal. Maybe you're too tired to right now, but would you stop moaning and groaning? I'm trying to film a lesson. Stop it. Open up your journal, see how much of this you can complete. We've only done the first chapter. You should be able to introduce some characters. I definitely want to make sure you mention our main character, Charlie, and our new friend, Howard, okay? The setting, we know they're in North Carolina, in the town called Colby. We know she's originally from a town called Raleigh. The problem is she does not want to be there, right? She wants to be at home in her normal house, in her normal everyday routine. So she's not thrilled about going to live with strangers, even though they're family. I'm gonna let you use the sequencing and order of events for the first, next, then, and the last thing that happened. If you need to rewatch the video or go back, go ahead. And then last but not least, tell me how you might be able to make a connection with Charlie. How do you think Charlie's feeling? How would you feel if you were Charlie? Okay, and tell me what would make you feel that way. Okay, give me a little bit of detail. Don't just say, yeah, I feel the same. Okay, tell me, give me some words to describe the emotions, right? I love when you guys chime in during class and you give me lots of different words that are synonyms for the same word or the same type of feeling that a character is having, because there's lots of different ways to describe that. So go ahead and jot that down in your journal. I hope you enjoyed our first read aloud, and I will be posting the next chapter shortly. Okay? Bye, guys. I'll see you soon. Let's see. How do I get out? I think you're stuck with me. I think you're stuck with me. Okay. So let's end this meeting.